All right, everybody that was watching and listening, so on and so forth. Now, I've gotten a situation where the final bath is done and the water's clear. Okay? And what we have now is, hold this up, a clean St. Louis cut slab of ribs. You see that grayish dull pink color? That means that the tissue is not inundated with blood of any type. So if you just got to watching, I'm going to show you again. It's clean. Okay? Got that dull grayish color. Now it's ready to season. So I got it out of the bath, which I got to drain this, by the way. Okay? And you want to get as much of the water out of it as you can, because some of the tissue is going to try to hold water. So what you do is, if you aren't a person that has one of these sinks with the slanted with a slanted counter on it, I strongly suggest you go back to your handy dandy paper towel, pat it down just a little bit. You know, you can't like wring it out or nothing, so just pat it down a little bit. And then once you got that, and this also help you so you're not, you don't get that runoff and you end up wasting seasoning. So put it over here. Got some more paper towels. Let me get mine. Okay. You get your Invincible Chef patented rub in the, I forgot what this thing is called, shaker. And then when you season, now here's a big mistake a lot of brothers make. People are proud of their seasonings and their rubs. I make all this and that and the other. I get that. You want to put your spin and your flavor on your food, and you put together a proprietary group of seasonings, that's right. But how you apply them is key. When you're seasoning any type of meat, you season from the wrist, not from the elbow. You tracking? From the wrist, not from the elbow. Okay? All season from the elbow gonna do is put excess amounts of seasoning on your food. You're gonna waste product if you're a hustler like me, and also your food is gonna be seasoned heavy, be too salty, too spicy, and people might be nice, and some people, like the people I roll with, right here, they're gonna tell you to your face. So if you do it like this, what it does is, seasoning from the elbow does, it allows the seasoning to cascade down onto the meat. You get an even coat of it. You don't have to beat up different sections or areas to make sure that it's covered evenly. You just let it, and this takes a little bit of patience, because I just freshly packed this seasoner, so it's not coming out a lot. But when it does, what you're gonna see is, and I'll show you real quick. Let's see if I can do this, be ambidextrous about this. Okay, now you'll notice as I'm seasoning, hopefully you can see how this happens. It's going to lightly fall on the meat. See what I'm saying? Almost like I'm dusting it with the seasoning. Okay? If you can see how that falls on there, it's not a great deal of it at one time. So you're putting on a layer, almost like a light coating. When you do that, you give it a few seconds to let it settle in there, okay? And then the next thing you're gonna do is, once you've got a fairly well seasoned for the first layer, you got it evenly across. With your fingertips, you actually, let me see how I can do this. I'll do it again with the, let me see here. You want to massage, like deep tissue massage, the seasoning into the tissue of the meat. Shaking it on there adds a layer of seasoning on the top. When the juices come out of the meat, ultimately the juices are going to rinse that off. But if you massage it in there, just like you're putting on your lotions or any of these things that are going to benefit your skin that are more than just topical, Look at that. That is tissue. That's muscle tissue. So you massage it in there. Okay. Then once you've done that, and you try to do a thorough job of it, even on the side that has the doggone, the back side, the rib side, you do that as well. And see, once again, seasoning from the wrist. So you have to let it fall on the meat. Don't put it on the meat. Let the seasoning fall on it. And it lands where it lands. If you're doing it right, it'll drop like it's like snowflakes, how it lands in your doggone yard and stuff. So it ends up falling on the meat, and you're gonna get even coating. Because you notice when it rains and stuff, how raindrops fall, everything get wet evenly. Unless there's something blocking away, it's going to fall on everything evenly. So guess what? Same thing with your seasoning. Now the back part is important because that's where the thicker and the brisket meat or the rib is at. If it's St. Louis cut, it comes back over, it folds back over the back of the rib. So you really want to massage that in there, okay, to make sure that you're getting that deep in there. And also you run your fingers through the grooves between the ribs to make sure it gets in that meat back there. Because now you remove the membrane, it can get in there real well. Okay? And then again, you're not wasting seasoning. Now, here's the key to the Invincible Chef seasoning process. For those of you who want to know, because hey, ain't really no trade secrets that's going to, change the game so much. But this is how I seal my flavor in. And I'll share this with you because a lot of people, they want their barbecue to be slamming in the backyard. You want to impress your family when they come over. Get some. Lee & Perrins is the Worcester sauce I prefer to use because that's the least amount of ingredients and that it doesn't have a bunch of additives and crap like that, a bunch of chemicals, so it can be sold for cheap. It just has the basic ingredients that makes the sauce and provides the flavor. I put it in a spray bottle like this so I can get even coverage. So what you do is spritz it across the meat. You don't get it soaked. You just spritz it lightly. What this does is, because of the fact that Worcester sauce is acidic, it starts to dissolve the seasonings and break them down. You've already massaged it in the meat, so now the meat tissue is being infused with the flavor of your the seasoning that you chose and the Worcester sauce. So again, I'm throwing a little from the wrist, letting that drop down on there. Okay, I can see here, I got an even coat of the seasoning on there, all right? Quick massage again, make sure that gets in there evenly. Gets into the striations of the meat, which is important. And then there's a thin layer of fat there on the top. That fat's gonna be rendered, and it's gonna make some, keep some juiciness, in the meat. So you can rub a little bit of seasoning into that too. So, Joe, you're hilarious. Then hit that front side with the Worcestershire sauce. Boom. Once you've done that, you've rubbed the seasoning in there. You put the Worcestershire sauce in there. Another little sprinkle. Okay? Because some people like a heavy bark on their ribs. I want people to taste the meat that I'm making and enjoy it. The bark is great and all that, but I have enough brown sugar in my rub to get that caramelization if I'm grilling. But I don't grill, I smoke. And so if I use hickory, I get that heavy smoke and get a bark on it. But what I'm using mainly today for this celebration, making this food for my family and the friends that come over, I'm using applewood. Big chunks of applewood mixed in with the coals that's in there. Right now, we'll come over to the smoker for a second. We'll see that Walter L is at a nice, look at that, Walter L is at about 275 degrees in the top smoking zone. Now that's good to go right there. Because for your heavy meat like the ribs and stuff like that, if you're doing a medium to long smoke, it's been my experience, I would go between anywhere between 190, a medium to long smoke, anywhere between 200 to 225 degrees. You want to do a long smoke, you want to be like 180 to 225. But if you want to get that, you want to seal them flavors in there and get it done in a short amount of time, 275 is good to go. But not like 300, because it's like, you know what? That's grilling temperature right there. So you keep it under 300, but in the mid 200s or whatever, then you're gonna be. I bet it is, Joe. So I did that one right there. I'm gonna do another, because what ends up happening is I got 6 slabs here I gotta do. But one of the things I'm gonna show you guys I got on top of that is granulated garlic, is this picnic cut pork shoulder. Looks like a heart, that piece right there, but yeah, this gets extremely tender, okay? And I use this as an alternative to the shoulder butt, and that people use a lot of time. And I prepare it the same way. And what I do is I smoke it. I do the long smoke on this. I try to give it anywhere between 10 and 12 hours. This one I'm going to smoke for about 7. Once I get this in the smoker, it's going to be smoking for about like 7 hours, but through the ceremony. So when we come back and I jump out of them chucks, I'll be able to pull it out, and it's going to be serious. You know what I'm saying? So this is going to be, a lot of stuff is going to be going while I'm going through my morning activities and throughout the day. And my ceremony today is at 2 o'clock. So by the time it gets done, then it's going to be, you know, people are going to be showing up, right? Guess what? They're going to get that good on arrival. That's how I prefer to do it. You know what I'm saying? Oh, we're going to have a barbecue at 2. You know, well, you know, you shouldn't be standing there cooking. People shouldn't be watching you cook at 2. They should be grabbing a plate and then shutting up, because, you know, I like to make them shut up plates. You know, everybody getting in a conversation is cracking till the food get in front of them. It's my technique. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of this drainage done. And for the benefit of the people who just joined, I'm going to season another slab. So, pulling it out, showing you again, this is a clean slab of ribs. See that gray, light pinkish color? Okay? We've already drained it, we bathed it, and got all of the blood out of it. Okay, to the point where the bones have drained pretty good. Because of that tepid, you know, it's about like maybe, I say about 100 and about 95, 185 to 90 degrees in the water. And then I dropped it a little bit to about like 75, 80. And that helped get the blood flowing. And then I end up getting a drainage. You get your paper towels again, that's your little friend when you're preparing these meats. That's a multi-purpose tool in this situation. And then get your little, you can cheat, get your little pat down. You don't feel like you want to spend all day waiting for it the water to run down. And like I said, I have these sinks with the angled counters. So, you know, I can wait, I can just set it there and it'll run off. But I'm gonna show y'all a little cheat they had to the game too. Y'all saw that I have a slab in here that's seasoned, right? Okay, well, if you got to do multiple slabs, you can save yourself some time and some seasoning by seasoning the one, you lay it over top where it almost completely covers the one that's already seasoning. Now you already got a head start on seasoning the one, the back of the one that you're starting on now. So, once again, we get up, set up, we get our rib here, or whatever we're seasoning in front of us, and from the wrist, not the elbow, from the wrist, you go ahead and apply your seasoning in a gradual sweeping motion across the cut of meat, in this case the ribs. Let the seasoning cascade down to it like snow, like a nice heavy snowfall. That's going to make sure it'll make its way to the meat. You don't have to even aim at it or anything like that. If you do it like this, it just falls and the meat ends up catching that seasoning. Okay? Once you get the seasoning on there, as we're describing, from the wrist, I can't repeat that enough. It's not how much you season it, brothers and sisters, it's how you season. It's got to be even. So, once again, And for those that just arrived, you get the cut of meat, you see the seasoning on there. It's a light coat of seasoning first. Then you, with your fingertips, massage the seasoning into the tissue of the meat. These are called striations right here, okay? You want to get all that you can, all the flavor that you can into the cut of meat, right? So you gotta rub it into the tissue. This is the mistake that a lot of people make when they're grilling. Most people get their seasoning on the meat. You want it in the meat. So just like you got a little twitch in your neck or whatever, you get that Bengay, you rub it in there. Same thing with this tissue on these ribs. You rub that seasoning in there. That's why they call it a rub. You're not, this stuff right here, you rub it in there if you care for how good your stuff tastes. If you want the flavor to go to the bone. If you want people to have an emotional response, like when they taste it, this is what you do. This is something I would not go and jump out and say I'm the best there is. I'm not going to go out and say I'm better than other folks. What I will say is I prepare my stuff in a way that basically makes the customer or the recipient, whoever's eating it or whatever, experience something when they're eating it. And that's what brings the people to the yard and keeps them coming back. You know, there's room in under the tent for everybody. But my thing is, what I'm bringing is going to shut a lot of these things down, because when you eating this barbecue, I want you to taste how I feel about making it. This happens to be my passion, so I'm not gonna take any shortcuts in this preparation. So, and like I said before, you get your fingers in between the grooves on the back of the meat so that you can make sure that it gets in there. After you pull the membrane off, you get that flavor up underneath there. So here we go again. And don't neglect the sides either. Because sometimes you might get caught snoozing, the meat folds over because it's thick, you know, and you have to get that seasoning in there, you know, and underneath some of the flaps between meat and membrane where it's stacked up on there. So, all right, good on you, Jordan. Write this down. So once we gotten that rubbed in there, now the meat has color, okay? And it's because of the seasoning and the way you've rubbed it in there. Now, it's time to lock it in, right? A little more on that piece. Get your Lea & Perrins, a light coating across the whole slab. That chance to soak in a little bit. And hit that back real good too, because it's going to help that flavor seep in between those sections and those ribs, right? Yeah. Now you got your properly seasoned and about to be marinated slab of ribs, okay? And see, that's how I go about it with everything. The ribs just do that. The ribs are like that, and then the same thing. So, go ahead and cheat. Get a head start on this slab by laying it on top of a previously seasoned one. Once again, I got 3 more of these, but what I'm gonna do for the purpose of instruction or whatever is I'm going to prepare one of those picnic cut or whatever they call them, pork shoulder kind of things. And then it's gonna get that ready. So I'll show you how to prepare those and get that ready to go on the smoker. See, this time I'm not neglecting the sides and having to come back to it. You pull the side back a little bit so you can expose that. And the seasoning, same with underneath that flap. And then see again, now the volume in here is a little bit less, so now it's coming out a little freely, so you can see what I'm talking about from the wrist. Before it was packed up, there wasn't much air in there, so it's having trouble coming out. When you got a little bit of air, the season's gonna flow freely. So if you season it from the elbow, you're gonna get somebody a heart attack, because most of these seasons have a couple, 3 different salts in there. All right, because I like to have a base, a Lowry's base in mind. Then I come through with the chili and the cumin and a little bit of cayenne, the garlic, okay, the onion, and all these other things. So, you know, you're gonna fool around and kill somebody. You put too much of that stuff on there. You know, you put it on too heavily. You know, this is something that some people consider tedious. For me, it's kind of a joy. I love doing this because I know what the end result is going to be. I want them ribs that's going to make somebody want to scream and shout. Let me see. So, boom. I'm back like I forgot something. Okay, now, as I season these last 3, I'm going to share something with y'all today. You know, my sister's been on Facebook all week doing these little factoids about me, my nicknames, you know, telling everybody about my former life. People are thank you, Sarah. You know, she just messing up all my little aura of invincibility and my little superhero thing. You know, with everybody learning my backstory. I don't like that. But anyway, once again, expose that side here because a lot of people don't, you know, get that. You pull that back, make sure that's exposed so the whole rib, all of the meat from the rib gets the flavor. And in between the membrane and the tissue, get some of that in there too, so that all that isn't exposed gets the benefit from the flavor. And once you're through with your from the wrist seasoning, boom, it's time for that massage again. Oh, yeah. You might can even tighten up your technique, you know, in deep tissue, so you can hit them back and shoulders on your old lady, or your husband, or whatever, significant other. They come home from work, you know what I'm saying? Oh, there you go. Crack that back and neck, you know, help them out. You put that kind of tenderness and care into your ribs, you know, they're going to be slamming, and you give you a good barbecue for, oh yeah, I see you there, Joshua brother. There you go. So, deep into the tissue of the ribs. I can't say that enough, okay? And it's going to change that color because it's going to take on the color of those seasonings and then give it that texture in the meat. And the striations, okay, that's all you're doing with that massage. Just like you massaging some Bengay, Tiger Balm, whatever there, and then the muscles will make it feel better. Same thing here. And then get that nice light coating on the back. Let it fall down on the meat, cascade on there, and massage it in. Okay, this is the Invincible Chef technique. Okay, some people, you know, won't put in that time. Hey, that's just your thing. You know, some people think this take too long, but you gotta have that love. You gotta have that passion for this stuff. I don't know how many times I was out here doing like 15, 20 slabs of ribs and everything, had a little music going, which I would have some music on, but the wife and the man woke up yet. So, yeah. Okay. Hitting them with the Worcestershire sauce. For those who missed it before, it helps break down the seasoning and seal in the flavor. And then once you do that, it's really going to be cracking. The reason why I do it again, Worcestershire sauce, I've been doing this all day, is acidic. So it's going to break down that seasoning. And as you've already rubbed it in, massaged into the tissue, it's going to infuse that flavor into the rib meat. And that's what you want. When you bite into that meat, the juices that you taste are infused with this flavor that you work so hard to put in there. And that's what makes people scream and shout right there. It should be a freaking flavor, barbecue flavor party in their mouths. You know what I'm saying? They'll be in a situation where, you know, like I said, my goal is I want the emotional response. This, that's okay, it's cute. Oh, that's good, that's all right too. I want people to be like, you know, they have to apologize to somebody for their language. you know, as they're sitting there. You know, they fool around and say something inappropriate. I like that word, inappropriate. So, I'm on slabs number 5 and 6, which should not take long because we're getting the rhythm going here. See, I'm getting energy from y'all that's watching. Y'all helping your boy out. Okay. All right, we got to look even. Them sides, especially on the side where the meat is heavier. That's that brisket side where a little secret for those of y'all. When they make this St. Louis cut, they cut off the top brisket part, it's most meaty, and they make rib tips. Well, it's only in the interest of time that I'm not doing that. I started with a St. Louis cut, but yeah, buddy, more bang for your buck. If you cut some rib tips off of there, that's a whole nother order. They know about this in like Peoria and Chicago and some places in the South, you know, they're big on it. But out here in California, this guy asked me, he didn't know what a rib tip was. He was going off on the flavor of this meat and everything. And I was like, what in the Sam Hill? Oh man, what's a rib tip? Where do you get these from? I'm like, I made them playing. They was already on the ribs. I cut them off. And being it is part of the same thing, they were seasoned the same way. So the flavor was slamming, you know. And then, that's also an extra little change to make on the side, because it's a separate menu item. Because I grew up, where I grew up, this place called Big John's, and a place called Big O's down on the south side on Jefferson or whatever, Adams Street, down in deep south end by the Harrison Homes. And they had, you get a box of rib tips. Son! That was my intro to barbecue. Big John's, Big O's, and then we got this brother back there now who was an OG that I grew up, you know, looked out for me and everything. Known as the Rib King, okay? Tink Young, my big brother. This dude can slang some barbecue. Talking to the bone, pulling out the you know, fall out the bone, tender, punch somebody in the throat for taking the last one ribs. You know what I'm saying? That's one of the people, you know, I looked up to. And so I emulate styles, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm not saying I'm the standard. I stand on the shoulders of giants in everything. My Marine Corps career, my life. But if you're going to do this thing called barbecue, you got to be willing to be humble a bit to learn from other folks so you can put your stuff together. You know what I mean? And then you can develop a style of your own based on the things that you learn, if you actually learn something. But there are people who can't be told anything. You know? They got it figured out. I think that's funny. Anybody who tells you that they got the barbecue game all the way figured out is lying or is extremely arrogant. Because I learn something new every day. And that's what adds to the flavor, what you learn and how you apply it. Because, once again, get under those folds in between that membrane where it has the meat over it. Yeah, it's how you apply these things that you learn. You got to be willing to add little things to your repertoire. Because any good seasoning, any good sauce or whatever is a combination of a bunch of things. And any good barbecue is a combination of a bunch of different techniques. Now, I have 3 smokers right now. I was counting them. You know, I got a Arizona Grills pellet smoker in the back. That's my fun time at home. Get it done quick, set it and forget it joint. I got Ebony over here, which is my, that's the guy danced with the girl that brung me. That's the one that got me started in the game. It's a little cabinet smoker over there. It's Dynaglow Wide Body 43. I got Walter L, whom I introduced a lot of y'all to early. Walter L stands 7 feet tall, is 6 feet wide, almost 4 feet deep. And he can hold 150 slabs of ribs in one shot, or 120 brisket, or 180 pork shoulders, or any combination of that and chicken. So that is the one that I use. It'll be that's my competition rig, and for my large gigs, I got a beach bash on July 26th. So that's what I'll be using for that. So I'll be out there like 5 in the morning, and I'll be doing like, Lord knows how many. It's like 1,300 people. So my partner, Past Master Randy, who's a chef, like a real life chef. You know, my partner, Jay Briggs. These guys know how to break down a menu for something like that, so they have me straighten out for what the portion is going to be. And then they know how many slabs is going to be there, but Walter L is going to handle the heavy lifting on that, you know what I'm saying? So, once again, a lot of people, for the people that missed it, when they season their ribs, seasoning goes in your meat, not just on it. So, if you can see right here, you see the striations in the tissue. When you do your rub, it should go across, down, and through those striations because it's muscle tissue. That's why I recommend the deep tissue massage. So you're not wasting your seasoning. You're making it become a part of the meat. And when the meat cooks up, what we all know about anything, what you put in is what, when pressure builds up, is what comes out of you. So when it heats up and everything, and them juices get to flowing, absent the blood that I've already cleaned out, the juices are going to be infused with your seasoning. And then you take that Worcestershire and hit that slab, and it's going to already start breaking that seasoning down, and basically like using an injector into the tissue of the ribs. There you go. That's 6 slabs of ribs. Let me rinse this off real quick. Oh. I tell you what, this sink is the business. Now, granted, I have to plug it in, so there's that. But okay, the genius that pull my gloves out of there too. Okay, got this backwards. I'm gonna take this. I'm gonna wrap these real quick because another thing that people don't know, a little fun fact from this chef, is when you prepare your ribs this way, you don't have to marinate them as long. A lot of people pack a whole bunch of stuff on their ribs and blah blah blah. Then you got to put them in here for X amount of time. Hey, I'm all for some techniques that work, and I'm all for some techniques that are unique and everything else. But a lot of stuff people are doing is talking about is display their mastery of the craft and barbecue. My understanding of the different cuts of meat is because the different textures require a different types of seasoning to bring out the flavor, and to get the depth of that seasoning there, they take different amounts of time. Now, the longer you marinate and everything, obviously, the deeper it's going to go in there if marinated properly and at the right temperature. A lot of people don't know about that, but that'll be in another video. But for a situation like this, when you're grilling, obviously, the most important thing you want to happen is to have it on the grill, in the smoke, or whatever else doing its thing. So to get it there, I apply techniques that kind of expedite me getting this done. So the key part for that, to expedite that, is that Worcestershire sauce, because it already comes to breaking the meat down and breaking down those seasonings in there. So you can see throughout, as I've seasoned all these ribs and everything, the tissue is altogether different. It started off red because it was bloody. I did the 3 baths and I cleaned them, so we got the nice gray, pinkish texture. So we've gotten all the blood out, and the water's clear, so we know the meat is clean. Then we apply the seasoning, massage it in, hit it with the Worcestershire, which seals it in. Then we go to the smoker. I'm gonna go to my cooler real quick. Put these in here for just a second, because I'm about to throw these. Walter L's gonna get these. Now, grab another pan real quick. Now, one thing y'all notice is, if you see me do this before, I change gloves a lot of times, okay? When I'm dealing with like tissue or like sourced meats, i.e. ribs, pork rib, and pork shoulder, and pork loin and stuff like that, I don't do it as often, but I still do. because it's pretty much the same. But I'm handling these meats as they come out of the sink. They're clean. Try to save y'all some time, viewing time. Okay. By having some of the stuff set up. That's how they do on them TV cooking shows. They have somebody come in and prep the stuff, and then the person, the on-screen talent, will cook the stuff like they have done that already. So this right here is that picnic loin cut thingy I was saying about, like the pork shoulder. The tissue of it is very similar to just like the regular pork shoulder, but it's a little bit less expensive. Actually, it's a lot less expensive, but it tastes even better. But once you get in there, it's some of them have a lot of fat in there in between, but it renders up really well, and it adds, because of the way it's seasoned and marinated or whatever, adds a lot to the flavor when smoked. So these bad boys right here, I always do these last because I don't have to spend as much time on them as I do with the ribs. After they get their bath and get cleaned out or whatever, they ready to rock and roll. I keep going back and forth because I'm getting this out the sink. Did I tell y'all my sink got a hot water heater in it? That is so dope. Somebody sat around and came up with that mess, and I'm grateful to them for it. Now, once again, I will cheat by doing a little pat to get the excess water off of there, so we're not going to be here all day, because this right here I'm doing to A, get this food ready for this afternoon for anybody that's going to come over afterwards and partake of it, and B, calm my nerves for this impending event. I'm pretty excited about this retirement. I'm a little bit nervous for the ceremony and everything, but it's a good nervous. Okay, I got 4 of these bad boys in here. The thing I like about this is the yield. Okay, one of these can feed like about, when it's pulled, about like 10 or 12 folks, and that's awesome. And then, like I said, they're less expensive than the full-on pork shoulder and everything. I can get them by the case, and we're talking like $1.23 a pound, $1.25 a pound, and I buy them by the case out there at Restaurant Depot. So, once again, the seasoning technique is the same. I'm gonna start with this large one. But the only difference is this is boneless meat, so you're gonna have these situations where you got the crevices and where they put the cuts in the tissue. You got to season in there as well. Okay, these right here are easier because when I'm doing a large pork shoulder, I would inject it. I usually would get I'll break down a couple sticks of butter, some apple juice, some of my rub, a little bit of Worcestershire, and I think it was what's that other thing I put in there? I think it's just a dash of cayenne pepper. But anyway, once I got that injection brewed up for the pork shoulder, I'd inject it all throughout. And then after, I'd season and rub it, then I'd inject it and wrap it up real tight in saran wrap and put it in the cooler for about like maybe 6 to 10 hours. At which point I'll put it on the smoker for 10 to 12. But I've gotten it set up so with these smaller ones, it doesn't take as long to smoke them, and I don't have to inject them, to end up getting that flavor throughout, because I can actually get the seasoning into the crevices like that. It's almost like you get a pork shoulder and it's kind of cut open and exposed, for example, like so. Okay? So, from the wrist, always season from the wrist, never from the elbow. And you're doing, hey, Sharonica, how you doing, fam? So, because if you're doing it from the elbow, you're going to set somebody else up for a heart attack. You know what I mean? Too much salt. I think a lot of people don't understand this side of having a good group of herbs to use when you're seasoning. A lot of them are salt-based or have combinations of seasonings that have salt in them. And that's no bueno when you put it on heavily like this. You doing this like that, it's going to fall on the meat, which is the point. It's still moist, so guess what? It's going to stick to it and it's going to absorb it. One of the things I do with the larger cuts, like the pork shoulder, is rub it down with olive oil and crushed garlic. If you don't have crushed garlic, in a pinch, granulated garlic will do. But the point is, you got to get that into the meat. So this right here is going to go hard into the massage. You know what I'm saying? Like you're kneading some dough. Okay. Let's get it in there, because it's going to start to separate a little bit from that membrane and that fat that's going to get rendered. And then you'll see some areas where you can go ahead and throw that seasoning on there again. And you see those crevices where the meat is still pink and it hasn't been seasoned. Okay. Quick fun science fact: there's two things that, if you know anything about muscles, from anatomy and physiology, two things you need to be concerned with: origin and insertion. Okay, muscles. So that's where the muscles are going to join up and be attached to something, right? And then they go over to another muscle. If you understand that, you can look at the grain of the different cuts of meat, and you can follow that with your seasoning. You can apply it so that none of these areas don't get missed. Okay, and you do your little massage thing, because it's muscle tissue. And get that seasoning in there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get all of these seasoned first. Then I'm going to seal the seasoning in with the Worcestershire. Then these are going to be wrapped. And once again, with the Worcestershire sauce, it's going to get that situation. Y'all got continental breakfast down there at that lodging y'all staying in. Thank you very much. I already saw to that. So you get downstairs, you can get you some coffee and a bagel at that Pacific Views lodging I put y'all up in. So go ahead and make it downstairs, sis. A grits. See, that's a people. That's why we can't, that's my sister. And, the word you're looking for, everybody, is egregious. Anyway, let's get back to the seasoning. So this one right here is a lot of the crevices we're talking about right there. So what I do is I grab it, and each one of the crevices I put a finger in there and separate. And once separated, I can see where all the seasoning needs to go. Okay, and I can see where the lining and the membrane meets up with the fat and the tissue, and see where the muscles are going. And then after that, from the wrist, not the elbow. Okay, you get that seasoning on there. See? And once you're moving it around, it's good to keep manipulating it with your hands, because some of these areas are going to pop open even further, or they're going to roll over, because this meat undulates. That's the word, undulates. And then being so ginger with that seat, see, that's why I ain't eating at your house. You know what I'm saying? Because you probably one of the people to season from the elbow. Okay, I'm giving a class here, so you might as well go ahead and get your notepad out. Anyway, like I was saying, for those who weren't listening, let the seasoning fall on the meat, and then you massage it in. You put the seasoning into the meat, not just on it. I'm going to say that for the people in the back, and for the people that are using the fat crayons. You know what I'm saying? And when sitting there with a hockey helmet on. Now, once you've done that, and you've gotten it massaged in there pretty good, you'll start to see that some of the areas are going to still be that light color, whatever. That's because this undulates and twists. So that's going to give you opportunity to hit those areas that you exposed. One more time. Boom. Now you got that bad boy seasoned up. A couple more of these. Now this one right here. Whew, this piece right here going to be slamming. See all those different cuts? And all those flaps and everything? That's a lot of opportunities to get the flavor deeper in. Because one of the things that's frustrating about heavy and thick cuts of meat is how difficult it can be sometimes to infuse it with flavor, because you want to get it to the middle. That's why a lot of people inject. Okay, but look, thankfully with this cut right here, it's not necessary. or not as necessary, I should say, because it's already chopped up into smaller portions. It's easier to smoke them. They smoke a little faster, you know, so on and so forth. So it's just the whole thing is making sure you get all these cracks and crevices with the seasoning, and then make sure that you work that seasoning throughout. Silky beef. All right, young bro. Oh, so here we go. Now this one right here was a bit of a challenge, but it's pretty well seasoned all in and throughout, and that's what you want. You get the seasoning on there first, then you work the seasoning in. Like in this case, it's larger cut, no bones, like you're kneading dough. And then, boom, we have altered the color and the texture of that one. See? Before, after. Before, after. Okay? So, the whole thing is to make sure you get maximum coverage. And by doing so, you get maximum flavor. Because ain't nothing worse than having a cut of meat, you know what I'm saying? And you take a bite and you get all that flavor, and then it's on the inside, it's whack, it's dull, you know what I'm saying? But that's the trap, the pitfall a lot of people get into, because they follow the conventional wisdom about packing a rub or some seasoning onto something and not ensuring that the seasoning has its intended effect. There are certain things about the texture of meat, your pork, your beef and things like that, the texture of the meat as you're chewing it and everything else, that is going to provide you with a different dining experience than, say, your chicken or your fish or anything else. So because of how you have to chew it, and all you're doing when you're chewing is grinding, right? So the juices of that meat are going to come forward. And there's nothing better than having those juices infused with a good seasoning in a marinade type situation. There. Now we got all these done. So I'm going to hit these with the Lea & Perrins Worcestershire sauce. I'm getting better. And another thing is, you put these in, you know, let them fall all around each other when you pack them in there, and guess what? They'll get the bonus of spreading the seasoning about. So, these, you get in them cracks. I changed the way the tip works on here a little bit so I can get a little more penetration on there. I get the Lea & Perrins to go farther in those crevices. And so that where we got the seasoning massaged in, and we'll get it in between the fat and the membrane and everything else. And that does it. It'll start the process where it's damn near about marinating itself. Now these right here, you ain't got to be shy when you're putting the Worcestershire on these, because it has to go deeper into the tissue, okay? And when you do that, oh son, this plus the smoke. So we got that smoker at that temperature we like, right? Good to go. And we got the meat with the flavor infused in it, right? Good to go. So now, once I get this done, I'm going to use my little $4 hands-free joint I got from DD's Discount and put it around my neck. So it might be a extreme close-up a little bit on the face, but I'm going to turn the camera around so that y'all can see. I'm going to throw this in the smoker so Walter L. can do his work. For those of you who don't know, Walter L. is Walter LaFrancis Moore Sr. That's my grandfather. My father was Walter LaFrancis Moore Jr. Walter L. is a legend in Peoria, amongst other places. He's the patriarch of my family. And he's inspiration for a lot of things for me. Least of all, this right here. So when I got that smoker built, I named it for him. A, he's a huge bear fan, as I am. B, you know, he likes a good barbecue. You know, he taught me a thing or two about some cooking and everything else. But he also taught me about the things that got me to this point, about being tenacious, about being focused, about working hard, and, you know, being a man of your word and all those kind of things. It's not easy to be consistent in doing things like that in this world, in this life, especially when you got to learn, be willing to make some mistakes and learn from them and keep it moving. But that was a valuable lesson he taught me. So let me get this device. Here it is. $4. Yeah. It looks funny, but it works. So I can stay hands-free around this place. Boom. Okay, so now as I'm doing this, I'm doing this so you can get a chance to see. The camera's on. Okay, there we go. Everybody see that? I hope so. Yeah, so we're gonna go to Walter L over here. Dan Gray, you are correct, sir. I always rep the Fighting Irish, as you were the mighty Fighting Irish. Gotta open it at the top. Ooh, son. That ain't hot. That thing. Oh. Yeah, let me get them tongs. Get a table from back here. I get a little table, in effect, save me some grief. I get to bringing all this stuff out. So, yeah, work with me for a second. Oh. That right there is Ebony. She's the one that got me in the game. So, as I'm walking around back and forth here, my peoples, let's go ahead and grab these, what do you call them? Picnic cut thingamajigs. And now, see, let's go ahead and walk by the side here. Oh, where are we at? Look at the temperature. It says, smoking. It's in the smoking range. See that? About like I'd say about 260 at the highest point. That's the top heat zone. So let me move Edward for a second. Okay. There's one at the bottom. This one in the bottom zone is 240. Okay. So what we want, since we know the heat rises, is we want to go to the mid to low section when we're loading. So, yeah, look at Walter L. Ooh, son. That is a custom grill if I ever done seen one. Open him up. Oh. You know what we're going to do, though, right quick? Because we got the heat and everything. I'm going to throw some more smoke in here. Okay. A little bit more. Okay. So. Oh. Yeah. Ooh, son, look at that in there. Look at it. Oh, so we know we finna about to throw some more doggone apple wood on there. That was kind of rude of me. I'm sorry, everybody. But I gotta had to take care of something real quick. Not the least of which is get some more wood so we can get the smoke back in the game. Because we got the heat. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, just gonna pop them in there. Oh yeah, this thing is literally cooking. And I like that. So I like these flavored woods. You know, especially for like pork and the cuts of meat like that. Oftentimes I use a apple and cherry and hickory blend for my pork, you know, and then for the beef, I like to go with cherry a lot too. Hold on. There we go. Wow. That is a wood box for you. Because these bad boys, these are steel fireboxes that the brothers that built this smoker made for me, custom. So, and I get a little bit more of this apple in the game. There we go. Oh yeah. Now we're going to get our smoke reestablished, which is great because that's really important. Okay, so that being done, we'll give that a few minutes. Take this thing out. All right. I have a couple of preparations to make, and I'll be back on here one more time, and we'll get to rocking and rolling. Peace, everybody.